1, 2, 3, 4. Palapalooza, Palapalooza. We're talking to you. I'm Palapalooza. Craig Yarnold, welcome to Palapalooza. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Thanks a lot for your time, man.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Yeah, dude. Saxophone player for Bucko 9 since 1991. Does it feel like 30 years?
Yes and no.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. Yeah, you must have seen a lot, man. I mean, the industry's changed so much, and you guys have done so much. You released 28 Teeth in 97 with your big single My Town. That must have really catapulted you guys to the next level. I thought it'd be cool to kind of talk about the years prior and the lead up to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that was the so-called formative years for us. Just kind of figuring out how to, the lineup, solidifying the lineup, and learning how to play live and how to be a band, basically, all the things that go into that, from rehearsing and writing songs to recording and, branching out to San Diego and starting to play some regional shows, LA and Phoenix and places like that.
Refining your sound a bit and doing it, just how all bands do it, I suppose. But you hear of, Bucko 9, and it's always interesting to talk to bands like you because it seems like an overnight success, but it never is, right? You guys hustled quite a bit before 97, right? I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, the band started to come together, end of 91, beginning of 92, and by the end of 92, we had our first demo tape out, which was kind of like our first, album, because I think we had about 10 or 12 songs on it. And, at that point, we were just trying to play as many cool shows as we could. And we wanted to, open up for as many, all the bands that we liked listening to and going to see. And it was just get the word out. We had a mailing list. We send postcards to people and get people to sign up on a mailing list at the shows, and just try to build and build.
Well, I stumbled and at 2 a.m. all drunk and full of smoke. My wife said I have had enough. That said I'm sick, get out. So I stumbled down to Kelly's Pub across the edge of town, and I told the boys my story, and we had another round.
Is there a part of you that wishes the digital era was around back then? Or do you feel fortunate that you experienced the music scene without that, or maybe a little bit of both?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both, because I mean, through that, we, into the mid 90s, we had a website pretty early on in the game, and we had an AOL account that we used for the band.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
I mean, it evolved from sending postcards and newsletters out to answering emails. While we were on the road, we would get to the club and find a modem, a phone line, download that day's emails and upload the ones we'd answered. And, for communication, I don't know. It's hard to say, because I don't know how people keep up with social media now, with Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and having to constantly, have stuff for people to engage with. So I think would be a little different to adjust to now, but.
Sure. There's a standard for certain social content these days, right?
Yeah, it seems like, the people that are doing it full on are on there every day posting something. Right. And, I mean, if you're out on the road, if you're traveling and doing things as a band, I guess you could always come up with something to share. For us, it's kind of like little spurts. We go out for a weekend and we're posting a bunch of stuff, and then a few months go by, and then you hear from us again.
Yeah, no, totally, man. Yeah. What were some of those bands and venues that you would hook up with when you were first playing? You got to mention Sprung Monkey, Unwritten Law, all those guys. Were you sharing the stage with them?
Yeah, we played with them a bunch. Ghoul Spoon, Unsteady. Unsteady was, and Gangbusters were kind of the other ska bands around at that point.
Yeah.
And in San Diego, bands like Flat in Manhattan and Freak Scene that were kind of more on the crazy funk side of things, and that was a good lineup, because it was just all about getting fun and being kind of crazy and
Sure.
and not taking yourself too seriously. But
Ska's that way, right? Ska's fun, happy music, right?
yeah, I mean it has its other side too. It has its political, social commentary side. Then I think that's kind of gets overlooked a little bit since the 90s wave came around,
Sure.
because obviously the stuff before in the two-tone era there was a lot more, socio-political commentary going on in that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it swings back the other way ever, but it's definitely, we've always tried to have a positive message in the music and in the vibe that we present, even if we're kind of touching on some more serious topics like this.
Life going strong, generation. Positive attitudes, what we need. Keep life going strong, generation. Do something.
Ska now compared to then.
I think it's healthier in a way, because I think there's a lot more variety out there right now. I hear a lot of stuff where people are diving back into the older traditional sounds, but with updated recording techniques and musicianship, as well as people carrying the third wave banner, and people even kind of falling somewhere in between. A band like the Interrupters that's kind of more straightforward ska with maybe a little ska punk edge to it.
I was going to say them. Yeah, I didn't know how you'd feel about that, but they really seem to be killing it for mainstream right now, huh?
Yeah, it's really good to see. Because ska has usually been lumped into these periodic trends, and they came out when there wasn't part of another wave of ska like there was in the 90s with the Bosstones and No Doubt and all that.
Yeah.
So good for them. That's the thing that I think I'd like to see, is for ska music to stand on its own and not be necessarily have to be part of like, oh, here's another wave, here's another fad. Just if there's good music and it happens to be ska, give it some recognition.
Totally.
People have always loved it. A lot of people had never heard it before, through the different eras. They hear a song by the English Beat or Sublime or No Doubt or something like that, and then they're instantly hooked.
I'm glad you brought up the Bosstones. I mean, I graduated high school in 98, so obviously Buck 09, I started my first band in 98 too, so Buck 09 was, you guys are definite local legends. You were on the map for sure. Bosstones, you got to throw them out for definite 90s ska bands that were just legendary. I think of Rancid, Real Big Fish. Did you team up with all those guys?
We played with Real Big Fish quite a bit in those early to mid 90s era when we played with a lot of the Orange County bands back then. Say Ferris, Real Big Fish, Meal Ticket, Assorted Jelly Beans. I might be misstating where some of the bands are actually from, but Southern California, from Riverside to Orange County and LA.
Yeah.
Of course, Voodoo Glow Skulls were a band that we hooked up with early, and got to play with them a lot over the years. We never played with Rancid until I think it was 2007.
Okay.
We did 3 shows with them when we put out our I guess it would have been our 5th album.
Yeah.
And we got to play 3 shows with them, and that was really fun to see them just kill it every night.
Black coat, white shoes, white hat, Cadillac, yeah. Before the time bomb.
They were obviously a band that we looked up, respected, and of course with the lineage coming from Operation Ivy, there's that natural transition right there. And most of us are really into punk rock and have been since high school too. So that even their first 2 albums are some of my favorites, where they don't really get into the ska there. It's just straight ahead, Bay Area punk.
Yeah, I was listening to some of your older stuff today, and you guys were a lot more punk back in your earlier stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we were influenced stylistically by ska core, Bosstones, Voodoo Glow Skulls, to some degree, and Operation Ivy, and the bands that seemed like they were taking it to a new space.
Right.
Of course, Fishbone was there too. They'd been around, and they'd mixed up all kinds of styles.
There once was a mob that wanted her. There once was a pop that wanted her.
And it felt like, okay, now we're taking the modern like kind of punk rock and metal stuff and throwing it in versus, it's basically what Two Tone did back in the 70s was take, ska and that era of British punk and slam it together, speed up the tempos and mix it up a bit with the attitude. So
yeah,
it felt like the next wave of that, in the wave of the bands that kind of came out of the 80s and 90s, Bad Religion and that kind of stuff, Green Day, all that stuff that was coming out.
Yeah, for sure. Looking back, I mean, is there a moment that really sticks out where you feel like you recall Buck 09, sort of making it, quote unquote, or was it sort of a gradual thing that occurred?
We never really felt like we made it because, we had My Town that got a fair amount of airplay on, the alternative stations around the country.
My town, my street, give me peace of mind that can't be beat.
We started getting invited to play the radio shows back then. The 91X's of the world had been playing your song, and they'd say, "Hey, can you come do our radio show?" It's kind of a favor to them because, thanks for playing us. But then you get to go and play this big concert with a whole bunch of bands that are huge, like Foo Fighters or Weezer or what have you, So I guess we did a show in Buffalo where we were opening for Weezer and the Goo Goo Dolls and all these really big alternative bands. And it was a minor league baseball stadium and it was packed with people. I don't know how many, 10,000 at least. And I remember we got off the stage and spent the next 45 minutes walking by this chain link fence, signing stuff for people,
Wow.
So
yeah.
I think there were a couple moments like that where you felt like, wow, what's going on here,
That would have been 97, 98?
Yeah, summer 97. 28 Teeth came out on, I think it was April 15th, tax day. We were on tour in Canada when it came out with Face to Face, and up there, the ska thing hadn't hit yet. They were in the throes of like the pop punk and the punks, the stuff that came out, Face to Face, Green Day, Offspring was huge up there, but they weren't so caught on to the third wave ska yet.
Yeah.
So we were up in Canada and it was still cold and we were like, well, our album's out,
Yeah. Are you guys all from San Diego?
Originally, no, but when the band started, we all lived here. We all were here for a number of years. Now we have some guys that have moved away and come back and moved away again and stuff like that.
Yeah. You're fresh off your live music stream. That would have been August 1st, PRSL, correct? How was that?
It was good. We actually had a pre-recorded video that they showed.
No, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. With all of us being, we have people live in Colorado and Arizona and stuff. So it's not feasible for us to really get together right now. And if we all tried to do it live over the internet, with that kind of distance between us, it would be a mess. But anyways, but I was up there and hanging out and they had some great bands playing live and I got to talk live on the, on the air, on the stream with Dave, who was hosting it, and talk about, the past and present and future of the band and stuff. So it was really cool. It's good to be able to reach people somehow in this COVID world.
And the COVID climate. Yeah, it's crazy times, man. Looking back on stadium shows and the minor league stadium, you got to wonder when that's going to return, right? A little bit?
Yeah, it's a big question right now. I don't think we're going to get back to normal until we have a vaccine or some good therapeutic treatments for it.
Right.
So we'll see how long that takes.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation and uncertainty, but I think 2020 is a wash, dude, right?
Yeah. I feel for the bands that are doing it full time. For us, we had some shows set up at the end of March, like a weekend run, and we had to cancel those.
Yeah,
and we were going to do a street fair in San Diego that got postponed. That was, for us, it was just like, oh, wow, we were going to go away and have fun that weekend, and now we can't.
Right.
But for other people, it's their livelihood. So, we really feel for those people that are, the bands and their whole crews and management, booking agents. Our booking agent, he makes his living, or a good part of his living off of booking bands on tour. So when the bands aren't on tour, he's not pulling in that income. So it affects a lot of people out there, and that's just one industry, obviously.
Yeah, really unfortunate. It did take a giant shit on the music industry for sure. I think we'll get back up to par, but yeah, you got to throw out venues and these small bars and any live music venue. I mean, the Casbah, you guys have probably rocked the Casbah a few times, right?
Yeah, that's become our kind of regular place to play a couple times a year.
10 Mays, right?
Yeah. He's legendary in San Diego, and I follow them online, and I see that they're doing some live streams, and hopefully they're going to be able to ride out the storm because they've been around long enough. But we're obviously some venues have been lost and are in jeopardy of being lost, and who knows how that's going to change the landscape. On the other hand, hopefully people will be ready to get out there and craving live shows again when it's safe to do so, and hopefully there'll be a boom across the board.
Totally, man. I think something will happen to make us all feel safe, whether it be, like you said, therapeutics or vaccine. It makes me wonder, it really does make me wonder if the live music industry is ever going to get back to how it was, not to be negative, but just sort of realistic.
I know, because in up until the early 2000s, bands could make money reasonably off of sales of their physical media, right? Their albums,
right?
And now that's less and less the case. Bands have come to rely on touring, selling merchandise that you can't download, like T-shirts, and so what do? You can keep putting out albums, but are you going to just stream them and make a few pennies here and there? I don't know.
It's tough, man. I assume, and from what it sounds like, you all have other streams of income, which is never a bad idea when you're a musician, man.
Yeah. I mean, for us, this stopped being a full-time gig like 20 years ago. So
you stopped fully touring quite a while ago, right? I mean, full-time touring.
Yeah, about beginning of 2000, end of 99 was our last U.S. tour. And since then, we took a bit of a hiatus there, and then we started doing it just for fun again. And just, if we can get out for 2 weeks, that's a big deal to us,
Yeah.
That's like a long time.
Yeah, no, totally, man.
But mostly it's weekends and long weekends, stuff we can drive to.
So really just playing sporadic shows here and there when the opportunity comes up with Bucko 9, right?
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, we have to say no to more things than we'd like to, because our booking agent says, "Hey, these guys want you to come here. Can you do this?" And we're like, "Sorry, we can't. So and so has worked, or other or we can't go to Texas and play because it's not that easy. We can't go to the East Coast very easily.
Sure.
Just for a couple shows, it just doesn't make sense.
How many original members are still playing with Bucko 9?
We are at this point 6 out of the 7.
Okay, wow. So who's the new guy?
Well, that's relative, but Andy Platfoot, our bass player, has been with us since around 2000.
2000? Only 20 years.
Yeah. And our drummer, Steve, he left the band in about 98 and then rejoined us about, I think, 5 years ago. So he's kind of the new guy, I guess, now.
Okay, yeah, that's funny, man. Writing and demoing, I'm seeing. You guys are working on some new stuff. I saw you tease a new song on social media, Looking Out My Window. Sounded really good, man.
Oh, yeah, thanks, yeah.
So you got some new stuff coming out, right?
Yeah, we're well into the writing of the next album. We've got almost 20 songs at this point.
Wow.
We're just I'm sure this is what a lot of people are doing right now. Just writing, and it's all you can really do.
Sure.
And so hopefully by the time we get to recording an album, we'll have plenty of songs to choose from, and to make it a good release.
Yeah. And you guys are a larger band. Are you comfortable with getting in the studio right now with each other, or would you be cautious about that?
Well, the last record we did, the drums were done in a studio here in San Diego, but then the rest of it was recorded in our trumpet player's garage studio.
Awesome, man.
So, we could do stuff like that. Right now, we're just demoing it all remotely. We all have recording software and mics, and we just record tracks and pass it around and add on to it, and it's just that.
Yeah.
What we want to do is when it's safe to get together again, is all get together for a weekend somewhere and just jam, for like 3 days and jam all this stuff live and really flesh it out. And then we'll be ready to do that. So whenever we can do that, I think that'll be the next step.
Yeah. It's different. It's a different era. You can almost record an album without seeing your band, you know?
Yeah. In fact, we did do a song that we submitted for a compilation that's coming out, I think, at the end of the year, that Asian Man Records is putting out. It's a ska against racism comp. They did one back in the 2000s, and they asked us if we could do something for this. So we managed to, put a track together that we came out pretty, quality wise, like sound wise, it sounds good. So yeah, we could probably do the whole album this way if we wanted to.
2020 Supernova Ska Festival, that was a live stream as well, right? Less Than Jake, Suicide Machines, a bunch of other bands. Was that in Jamaica?
It was to benefit the Alpha Boys School in Jamaica, which is like a music school. That's kind of the same program, I believe, that the Scotalites, a lot of the Scotalites musicians came out of, and where they learned to play as when they were younger. So it was to benefit that. But usually the festival happens somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. I can't remember, as I've never been to it. But we were stoked to be a part of that, because we probably wouldn't have been able to actually go to Virginia and play, although that would be awesome. But we were able to be a part of this one. So
right. Yeah. So that was just a live stream similar to the one last weekend?
Yeah. A lot of bands are doing these quarantine videos, and, so that's what we did for that.
That's cool. That worked out really well, man. Everyone was kind of rocking out from their house, and that came out pretty good. Do you have a producer who is the sound guy in Bucko 9 that sort of orchestrates that?
It's mostly our trumpet player.
What's his name?
Tony. Sorry. Yeah. When we were doing the last record, we used our recording budget to build a high-end, like, digital audio workstation, so that we could be kind of self-sufficient. And we used that to record. It's got super quiet fans and everything. And he's got, good mics and whatnot. He's really dived into the whole production side of things, with EQing and, getting all the sounds the way it needs to be done. So he's basically our producer. Everyone from home has the ability to, with a PC and some kind of USB interface, you can just plug your guitar or bass in, or mic your horn, and then get a recording, send it to him. Then he works his magic and puts it all together and sends it back, and then we can hear how it's all sounding together.
Nice,
at least for now. But before we went, when he lived in Chula Vista at the time, we just all went down there and recorded our parts at his house.
Gotcha. Makes it a little more difficult with the horn section, I would assume, right? With 7-8 people.
Yeah, I mean, we're used to it.
Okay.
I mean, it takes a little longer because each horn has to go in there and get their part down. The three of us work well together, and we usually know, like, one person kind of takes the lead. Like, okay, you're recording first, so we're all going to make sure we play along to what you're doing.
You're playing in Spy Kids too with Matt Hensley of Flogging Molly, and I think Scott Russo was playing with you guys for a little bit, right? On keys?
In the old days. So that was the band that we were in right before Bucko 9, Unwritten Law, and our drummer Mark was in Pivot after that. They were around for a few years here in San Diego. In fact, I think they're still around. And then, of course, several years later, Matt ended up hooking up with Flogging Molly. But yeah, that was a ska band we were in back. We were around from like 90 to the end of 91, basically, almost 2 years, a year and a half or so. And we played a lot of shows, San Diego, LA, Orange County, recorded a demo tape. And then we kind of just splintered off as people were getting into other projects. And then a couple years ago, a few of us were hanging out, and we kicked around the idea of, re-recording some of the songs off the demo tape. And so that blossomed into kind of a full-on release, So we went in the studio. Actually, we're lucky we got in the studio at the end of January, beginning of February, right before all this stuff happened.
Nice.
So we were lucky. We recorded the whole thing in a weekend up in Vista, and it came out way better than we thought it was going to be. So now Jump Up Records out of Chicago is doing a vinyl release of it. and digital and all that. So
Nice, man. And that's available on all platforms, Spotify and all that good stuff?
it will be. It's not out yet. We just heard the test pressing a couple weeks ago of the vinyl.
Awesome.
So, but it will be, we still have to finish the artwork and all that, but it will be coming out on a vinyl release and I believe CD. And then of course, I'm sure it'll be on all the streaming platforms and whatnot.
Awesome, man. I look forward to hearing that. 2020 is the goal?
I think so.
You never know, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of up to the label. It's Chuck Wren. He's been part of the ska scene forever. And I think he's kind of like a one-man operation. So I guess it just depends on his schedule and what he's got in the pipeline of releases ahead of that. Because he releases a lot of stuff on vinyl, a lot of reissues of ska bands and a lot of, new releases as well.
Very cool. We'll be on the lookout for that. New Spy Kids. We're going to do a quick dream segment with you, all right?
Okay.
If Buck-O-Nine could tour with any current band, who would you pick? Or maybe a band that you've always wanted to play with that you never got the opportunity?
I think it would. Well, there's a band from England that we all really like called the Skins, and they're a reggae band.
The biggest thing is international.
They do a couple ska tunes, but they're really good. I think it'd be cool to tour with them. I actually saw them at the Casbah back last year, and they're incredible. So I think it'd be great to tour with them. It'd be great to do some kind of big package tour with the likes of the Boss Tones and Rancid and Flogging Molly and whatnot. We're up for just about anything if that was the case,
Right. If we're dreaming, man. Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah.
Right on. Skins, is that SKINTS?
Yeah.
I'll check them out, man. Right on.
Yeah, they're definitely worth listening to. They've got some incredible stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good reggae coming out of England right now.
Yeah, that seems to be the case, huh?
Yeah.
Wonder what that is. What's going on over there? Something in the water, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Put together a dream show at the Casbah for Friday night. So venues are open back up. Buck-O-Nine and 3 other bands from San Diego.
From San Diego?
That's the rule, yep.
Okay. I think we'd have to put Donkey Show in there.
Donkey Show, okay.
I first don't live in stock. I've come to ask for your daughter to one time in marriage. That's me. So I love this girl very much and want to make her my wife.
They kind of split up before this whole 90s thing happened, but they were really good. They put out an EP on Moon Records back in the day.
Okay.
I'd probably have to go with them. Local bands, I'd probably have to add Gangbusters in there just because they were also a legendary kind of local influence band. Who else? One other?
Yeah, one more. The pressure.
I know there's so many to choose from. I'm kind of keeping it in the ska world because that's where we come from. But
do you ever go out to shows? Before January, do you ever go check out any local shows?
Once in a while, yeah. Not as much as I'd like to, but I saw the Skins back last summer, and
oh, cool, man.
A lot of times stuff happens on weeknights, and I just can't make it. But
totally. If
it's something I'm already tuned into, then I'll try to make it, like a band that I already like or I haven't seen in a while, But I unfortunately don't get out to see too much like local stuff that I'm not aware of yet, which is kind of a sign of getting old. But
I hear you. I'm sure you paid your dues, bro. I'm sure you were hitting the pavement in the 90s, dude. No doubt about it.
Oh yeah. Back then when you could just go to work on 4 hours sleep and not care,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good scene still here. Not a lot of ska around San Diego unless I'm just not clued into it. I've had a couple on the podcast, but definitely a lot of like punk rock still. The indie rock scene is still alive and well. The surf rock scene. So it's a great scene here in San Diego. When COVID isn't here,
Yeah. I can't remember if it was back in, I guess it was early this year. The San Diego School of Rock did a showcase down at the World Beat Center because their students were doing a bunch of local bands, and that was actually really cool because I got to see like Mitch from No Knife performed the song with the kids. Our horn section and guitar player played with the group that our guitar player Jonas's daughter is playing drums for. So
That's
we did
rad.
we did My Town with them, and I
That's
got
cool.
to see. I honestly, I'm drawing blanks right now, but I got to see some local musicians that are in bands that I had heard of but hadn't heard yet, and I saw some really good stuff.
Awesome.
But honestly, the names escape me right now. But
I know the Schizophonics did that. I don't know if they were one of them.
yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were part of it.
But yeah, they're
Yep.
touring a lot, and they've made a big name for themselves. I think they were featured in like Rolling Stone, so they're doing really well. Yeah.
Yeah, the more limited connection I have to it now, it seems like San Diego's still has maintained a really strong, diverse music scene. If COVID messed up the San Diego Music Awards live thing, otherwise we would have gone down to that at the House of Blues and connected with a bunch of stuff then.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that would have been a good networking thing, man. We were nominated this year, and I watched it online. Not quite the same, but
Yeah,
still very cool of, Kevin Hellman and the crew there with the San Diego Music Awards to keep it going.
yeah, we got nominated in world music category, which was a first for us, I think. But
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, congrats on that.
yeah, so it was nice to be at least recognized that you're still alive.
We're still here, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put out stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally. We'll move on here. Did another band come to mind with that last question, the Dream Bill, or do you want to skip past that?
I'm
Either way is
having
fine.
trouble. I think 3 bands on a bill is about,
Do
is
you?
about
Yeah.
good.
There you go. Longer
Most of the
sets.
time.
I agree. If you could bring a musician back from the dead for one final concert, who would it be?
I mean, some of them I have seen. Like, I think it would be obviously like Brad from Sublime. Would be pretty epic if they were able to play again.
Absolutely, man.
Rankin Roger from the English Beat, who passed away not too long ago. I've seen him perform, but not as the English Beat. Those are 2 that come to mind. Of as far as my kind of space. I mean, yeah, there's so many. Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, of course, would be legendary. And John Lennon and some of those people.
So many. You mentioned Sublime. Did Bucko 9 play with Sublime with Brad?
Yeah, we played with them once. We played with them a couple times. Yeah, we played with them up in LA once. At a crazy show. It was like almost a riot that happened outside. Yeah, it was weird.
What venue was that at?
I'd have to look it up because I don't think it's there anymore. There's an old flyer that someone posted online a couple years ago, and I think it was some theater that's like, it was kind of a shithole, but but I just remember like someone getting thrown through the plate glass window out front or something like that happening.
Wow.
It was getting like kind of dangerous up there,
Yeah.
in that old school LA kind of way. But yeah, we played with them, and I think we did a show in Denver once with them and a bunch of other bands, where we were just playing in the afternoon and there were 20 other bands after us.
Yeah. Did you get to hang with the guys, or was it just kind of on stage and?
Yeah, I don't remember hanging out with any of them. I mean, we didn't know them.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a personal connection with them. We were supposed to play with them once down here at Cane's, although I don't know if it was Cane's yet, but it was where that club used to be.
Yeah, man. I loved Canes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they had to cancel because I think he was in rehab at the time. This is a story I remember, and he couldn't get a pass to come out and play this gig. So we showed up, and I think we just played with ourselves and some other band, whoever else was on the bill.
Yeah.
But I do remember that one show in LA. That was pretty nuts. Yeah.
People getting thrown through windows, man. That's pretty memorable.
Yeah, it was like, that was one of those more underground shows,
Yeah.
before the big explosion happened.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good memories. A lot of good memories, I'm sure, with Bucko 9 looking back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
What's a tour that really sticks out?
Good tours or bad tours?
Well, either. I mean, maybe, stories or, I was thinking good, but your call.
Yeah. Well, one of the good ones early on was opening up for the incarnation of the Specials that was touring around 95, 96.
Wow.
We got to do like the west of the Mississippi, basically. And I think the Suicide Machines did the East Coast, more of the East Coast dates.
Yeah.
So that was really good. And we toured with the Suicide Machines nationally and in Canada, across Canada. And those are epic tours too, because we just really got along with those guys and had a lot of fun times just doing stupid stuff with them,
Yeah.
after the shows and hanging out and, just seeing how crazy kids from Detroit do it, you know.
You guys played up in Canada quite a bit, huh? Is there a scene up there?
Oh yeah. We did a couple. We did the across the country with Face to Face, and then again with Suicide Machines a year or two later. And yeah, there's definitely, I mean, especially on the coasts, you know, places like Vancouver and Calgary. And then when you get back to Toronto and Montreal and that area, London, Ontario, they've got a cool club called, I think it's called Call the Office. I think it's still there.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, in between, you're in the Midwest of Canada, and you got places like Saskatoon and Winnipeg and Regina, and places that, you know, you're just, it's like you're in a foreign country, but it's like, whoa, where are we? And then people just show up, you know.
Wow. And
in a place where you wonder if anyone is really alive there, you know. It's so remote. It feels so remote to us, you know. But
I've heard that before, man. Like even in Spain, I think it was. But maybe the supply of bands isn't quite as high, right? Like the bands just don't go through there as often, right? So when one does go through, everyone sort of flocks out, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's always hit or miss depending on where you go and when. But some of the best times you're going to have is playing what they call like these secondary markets, where you go to some college town or a town that's not the major city in that state or province, but the kids are so thankful that you're there that, you know, they don't take it for granted like they do in LA or San Francisco, where there's millions of things going on every night, you know.
Right.
So yeah, those can be some of the best experiences. Weird too, but awesome, you know. Like definitely a little more DIY perhaps. In, you know, you might be playing the basement of a VA hall somewhere, but it'll be the funnest show of the trip, you know.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, playing like the standard clubs in big cities, you know.
Yeah. From all the musicians I've talked to, you know, I think the one good thing that will come of COVID is the appreciation for live music, you know, in San Diego and LA and all these oversaturated cities, right?
Definitely. I think once people honestly feel in big numbers, feel safe enough to get in a room with a bunch of sweaty bodies, you know, pressed together against the stage.
Have a big COVID hug.
Yeah, then I think definitely, you know, it's going to be explosive because all the fans, the artists are just going to be, you know, full of pent up frustration, emotion. You know, I think there's going to be some incredible stuff that happens both live and, of course, recorded, you know. I mean, with all that's going on in the world, with the political climate and as well, you know, I just can't imagine there's not going to be some pretty incredible art coming out of all this, and, you know, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and some sort of stresses and tensions that sort of burn off a little bit, right? For musicians and listeners.
Yeah, you know, like, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are, you know, stuck at home like I am. And for me, having music to work on with my friends is a big, you know, it kind of gives you that sense of purpose and connection to the bigger world versus like, okay, what's on Netflix today? Or, you know, I can't go do this. It's a really nice day out, but I can't really go do anything because it's not safe, you know?
Yeah.
It's really good to have something like that, an outlet, you know, to give yourself, you know, some purpose, I suppose, whether it's, you know, something creative for me or you know.
Yeah. And I think you have a family and the school situation is bizarre. I have a 7-year-old. It's, I would imagine there's some stresses and uncertainties there.
Yeah. That must be harder for people like you that have younger ones that maybe, well, that's not too young, but maybe they have a harder time understanding what's going on or why, you know?
She's living it up here. It's a big summer break for her, man.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know my kids are missing getting to hang out with their friends and schoolmates, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Are they teens or a little bit older?
Yeah, 15 and 12. So they're both, teen tweens.
I saw you. Yeah, I saw you shooting guns with them on your social media. Just kind of scrolling around.
Yeah, BB guns.
yeah, BB guns. Yeah, yeah. I think my daughter. I feel for her. I think she's okay, but it's like she hasn't played with anyone her size in 5 months.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are pretty resilient, right? I mean, they're gonna come out of it on the other side. I just try to think of what it must have been like to be that age and living in, through the horrors of World War II or the Dust Bowl or, the Great Depression. And,
True.
You see, I was watching the show where these guys are cruising through Central America and they're showing these little kids in a village, that they don't have the internet and they don't have shoes and they're smiling and having fun. So,
totally.
I mean, not to take away from what's going on, but, I think also we need to put it in perspective compared to history. And it's like, well, it could be worse,
Yeah.
I mean, it is bad, but it hopefully it's a better time for something like this than it was 100 years ago with the Spanish flu,
No, that's a good perspective for sure. I think some of the kids' possessions end up owning them in a lot of ways with the, the video games and the TV and all of that. So
yeah, at least they do have that online element they can connect with. I know my kids are online with their friends playing Roblox and stuff like that. So.
I think back to my 90s, man. I was talking about this the other day. I feel like growing up in the 90s, we were fortunate, we didn't have a lot of distractions and we'd go outside and play and we didn't have as many video games,
Yeah. Oh, I know. I think about that too, Atari and all that. It's like you couldn't play Atari 12 hours a day. It just wasn't that fun.
I know. I remember seeing Mario on Super Mario for the first time Christmas, I got it probably like 1994 or something like that. And I was just blown away, dude. Like, whoa, I'm controlling that on the TV. That's incredible.
And now I'm even getting sucked back into video games a bit, playing, my son's PlayStation 4 and all that. And they're really engrossing. It's crazy.
Yeah. I find myself ordering the old games. I've got the classic Nintendo down there and I've got the old Sega games,
Oh, cool.
Trying to bring it back to my youth a little bit, but
yeah. We used to travel around with the Sega Genesis in a van with a little TV.
Nice.
When we were on tour, and we'd sit there and play like
Sonic or something,
boxing games, and whatever.
Yeah. Cool. We digress. But anyways,
yeah,
a couple of old fuckers reminiscing. No.
Yeah.
We have a lot of local musicians listening, man, that are hitting the pavement still. Maybe not as much in 2020, but they're still trying to do things and make it big. Do you have any advice for locals?
I mean, when this all blows over, I would say the number one thing is get out there and go for it, and don't limit yourself to just local stuff. I mean, I know San Diego's a great springboard for music, but I feel like what benefited us the most was getting out there. We did a road trip to Provo once to play a show with like 3 vehicles. We got to Phoenix, Tucson, LA, Orange County, Riverside, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to put it out there and take that risk, because you'll never know otherwise. And, you'll grow a lot and you'll get a measure for it. Cause one of the shockers to us was like, hey, we were doing really well at Soma. We were selling out Soma, and we're like, oh, we're just going to go around the country and do this everywhere. Well, then you get out there and you realize you haven't been playing St. Louis for 3 years and working it up. No one heard of you. And they have their own band called ME330 that's their Bucko 9, And so who the hell are you? So you have to earn that everywhere you go. And it's a big task for most bands, but it shouldn't discourage people. It should just encourage them to, give it a good shot, and see what can happen.
Yeah, great advice, man. Any advice with labels? I think TVT Records produced My Town, right, and 2018.
Yeah, they put that out.
They treat you pretty well.
Yeah, they did. I mean, unfortunately, they're not around anymore, but labels are tough, I mean, you kind of have to go by what other artists say. Try to talk to other artists, look at the track record of the people running the label. Do they care about the music? Are they going to, some of the best labels are some of the smaller ones because the people who run the labels, care,
Right.
I don't really know how the landscape is this nowadays too much, because things are a lot different than they were when we were more in the game. But
Sure.
yeah, find out from other artists. That's the number one thing. They'll know. They'll know whether they get a fair shake or not.
Yeah.
For us, it was all about distribution back then. It was like you didn't want to go to the East Coast and see all your peers' records or CDs in the shop and not see yours. you know?
Yeah.
So now distribution is different because a lot of it's done online, and I think it's leveled that playing field to some degree. But then it's also made it so there's a lot more trees to get through in that forest, right? To stand out. So,
yes, exactly. Maybe oversaturated. A lot more competition.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is a lot lower now, right? Before you had to save up your money and go to a studio and maybe put out a demo tape and now you can just get a computer or an iPad and you can make a record in a weekend and be on YouTube.
Totally.
There you go.
Yeah, no, totally, man. You're spot on. Do you think there is a need for labels anymore?
I suppose there is, because I think the ones that are around still are around for a reason, because they've got a reputation, or they're doing some, things beyond just putting out CDs. Maybe they're involved in some soundtrack work, or they've, the vinyl part of it is still, that's become popular again. So if you want to, to put out a vinyl record, you got to have someone who knows how to get that done. And I know at one point they were saying all these record plants were way back ordered on production because the upsurge in a lot of the record pressing places, are long gone. So there's not as many, but I don't know how that is now.
Interesting. I think I saw that record sales went up about 10% and CD sales dropped about 10%. That's the last thing I saw.
Yeah.
I think that was for 2019.
Yeah. So I think they serve a purpose, because if you're an artist, you're still, your main job is make your music, and get out there and perform. And you want someone else to handle all that other stuff. You have to keep your eye on it, and you have to know, you have to have a business sense.
Yeah.
But you can't, it's hard to do both full time and do both well. Right.
Totally.
So that's why you have a booking agent or a manager or those types of things, that if you work with the right people, it can make a world of difference.
Absolutely, man. Right on. Craig Yarnold, thank you so much for your time, dude. Bucko 9.
Thank you.
Local legends for sure. We'll keep an eye out for Spy Kids and their new release.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
And appreciate your time. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you. Yeah. You too. Take care.
I got the tunes in my pocket and